Next question is, this is yes or no. If you marry your brother and you commit immigration fraud, should you be denaturalized and deported? Again, if you commit immigration fraud, yes or no?
All right, everyone, welcome back. You're not going to believe what we're covering today. This is about a House Oversight Committee hearing where Representative Nancy Mace didn't hold anything back. There's been a lot of talk about serious problems in Minnesota during Governor Tim Walz's administration, questions about massive fraud, missing funds, and whether anyone was actually keeping watch over taxpayer money. But in this hearing, Nancy Mace goes far beyond the usual political talking points. She zeroes in on what's being described as a staggering $250 million gap, with allegations that taxpayer dollars may have ended up in the hands of terrorist groups, including Al-Shabaab. Yes, that's the claim, and it's explosive. What really stands out is how the witnesses respond under pressure. When they struggle to answer direct questions like whether American citizens should speak English or whether people involved in fraud should face deportation, it creates some very tense moments. Mace doesn't back down. She pushes harder, calls out the reactions from across the aisle, and even seems to slip in a pointed remark that many viewers think was aimed at a well-known member of the progressive squad. Take a look at this clip, and stick around, because afterward, we'll break down exactly what happened and why it matters.
To the witnesses answer questions today, I'm struck by the truly breathtaking amount of fraud, the scope and scale perpetrated against the American people by Somalians in Minnesota. Screeching Democrats, like you just heard, at our witnesses. Democrats on this committee don't want to talk about Minnesota fraud because Minnesota fraud is Democrat fraud. You're going to make a great host on MSNBC. You're going to be great. And this is a cover-up. I mean, the very definition of cover-up. And so while we're still trying to understand the scale of the fraud, it appears that the amount of fraud we are talking about could exceed the size of GDP in Somalia, the size of its economy is what we're talking about. So let that sink in, the amount of fraud we're talking about. My first question is this, Mr. Balyu, this afternoon. Should Somalians in Minnesota be required to speak English, their citizens? Yes or no? Should they be required to speak English if they're American citizens?
I think that question is really inappropriate.
Should they? It's not inappropriate. This is the United States of America. Do you speak English? Should Americans speak English? Citizens speak English? Yes or no?
Point of inquiry: is English the official language of the United States? It's a question.
Mr. Chairman, I'm being interrupted again by another
parliamentary inquiry.
I would like to reclaim my time, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to reclaim my time. That seems to be a popular theme today.
That's not a valid inquiry.
It's a point of inquiry.
Women have a right to speak in this committee. Conservative women have the right to speak here and not be interrupted by my male colleagues. Mr. Chairman, I would like to reclaim my time. I lost like 10 seconds there.
Okay, we'll give you 10 seconds.
Okay, my next question is, should Somalians who committed fraud be denaturalized and deported, Mr. Balyu?
Again,
yes,
I'm not sure that's an appropriate question because the majority of Somali Minnesotans are citizens.
So if you commit fraud in this country and you are here from Somalia, you don't believe they should be denaturalized and deported? Again, how much fraud would it take for you to want to denaturalize and deport someone who committed fraud in this country? How much?
Again,
$1 billion, $9 billion, $19 billion? What would it take for you?
Most Somali Minnesotans are citizens.
Right. And the ones that committed fraud, the question was, if you understand English, should be those who committed fraud, should they be denaturalized and deported? The Somalians who are here, the ones that can't speak English.
Yeah. So under U.S. law.
Okay. My next question for you
can I please finish the question?
No, you can't because you're not answering the question. My next question is, this is yes or no. If you marry your brother and you commit immigration fraud, should you be denaturalized and deported? If you commit immigration fraud, yes or no?
Again, that question seems really inappropriate. And if I can get back to your question.
Well, you can't answer my question, so that's probably more inappropriate. Can you name one significant contribution to Minnesota from a Somali immigrant who can't speak English?
Absolutely, yes. But again, this is...
You didn't name one. All right, so my next questions are going to be for the Honorable Ms. Robbins. Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here today. I heard some discussion earlier about Al-Shabaab. And the discovery that you believe some of this money that was defrauded the U.S. government went to Al-Shabaab. Is that correct? Did I hear that right?
Yes, it's been proven.
How much money are we talking about?
You know, we don't have an amount. So there's been specific cases where it's been charged where we have an amount, but then of the millions that go to Somali over the years in remittances, a portion of that we understand is taken as sort of a tax or corruption by al-Shabaab when it enters the country.
Can you explain to us who al-Shabaab is?
It's a terrorist organization in Somalia.
And they're affiliated with Al-Qaeda, is that right?
My understanding is they are.
I am on the DNI website where it tells me that since 2014, al-Shabaab has killed more U.S. citizens than any other Al-Qaeda affiliate. And as of 2025, al-Shabaab, this group, is Al-Qaeda's wealthiest component. Can you believe that?
Yes.
And that American tax dollars through Minnesota, through Governor Tim Walz, who shamefully had to resign from his reelection the other day. Thank you to the young YouTuber Nick Shirley. This is the kind of thing that was happening in Minnesota. So I praise the Republicans who are here today from the Minnesota State Legislature exposing this fraud. And then, Ms. Robbins, when do you think Tim Walz became aware of the fraud?
I think he's been aware of it since the beginning. This was a huge issue in our state in the year he ran for governor, and the OLA reports came out, first identifying the child care fraud in March and April of 2019 when he was in the first months of his term.
Was Keith Ellison in on it too, knowledgeable, the Catholic turned Muslim guy in Minnesota?
Yes, they were all newly in office, and this was very public knowledge in Minnesota.
What role do you think Tim Walz and Keith Ellison played, his administration, in delaying investigations into the fraud?
So I've outlined several things where they stopped our ability to strengthen internal controls, and they also shut down the criminal investigations by the OIG and DHS.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back. I do have two articles, Mr. Chairman, that I would like to ask for unanimous consent. This one on foxnews.com, Minnesota fraud probe will expand to other states. And then on house.gov, legislators blast DHS for revelations it had contracts with Feeding Our Future.
Hold on a second, there's a lot happening in that clip, and it deserves a closer look. Point one of the first things that stood out was how composed Representative Nancy Mace remained while questioning the witnesses. She pressed them with direct, yes or no questions, including whether U.S. citizens should be expected to speak English. When the witness, Mr. Ballou, declined to answer directly and instead called the question inappropriate, it created a tense exchange and highlighted a deeper disagreement over assimilation, citizenship, and what expectations should come with it. Then there was another moment that caught a lot of attention. Mace posed a hypothetical question about immigration fraud involving marriage to a relative and whether that should lead to denaturalization. She didn't mention anyone by name, but many observers interpreted it as a reference to long-standing allegations and controversies surrounding Representative Ilhan Omar. Those claims have been widely debated, with supporters dismissing them and critics continuing to raise questions. The hearing also focused heavily on the massive fraud case connected to pandemic relief funds in Minnesota. Testimony referenced the Feeding Our Future scandal, where hundreds of millions of dollars intended for child nutrition programs were allegedly stolen. According to statements discussed during the hearing, investigators found that some of the stolen funds may have been traced overseas, including possible links to al-Shabaab, which is designated as a terrorist organization. Mace and other lawmakers questioned how this could have happened under the administration of Governor Tim Walz. They pointed to concerns about when state officials became aware of the fraud and whether stronger action could have been taken sooner. There were also questions raised about the role of Attorney General Keith Ellison and how his office handled aspects of the investigation. Supporters of Mace argued that her questioning exposed serious failures in oversight and accountability. Critics, on the other hand, say the hearing included political messaging and insinuations that go beyond what has been proven in court. What's clear is that the hearing added fuel to an already heated debate about fraud, immigration, and political responsibility. The fallout from the Feeding Our Future case is still unfolding, and many are watching closely to see what further investigations, and potential prosecutions, may reveal.